Welcome to the Fast Mode podcast series. I'm Tara Neil, and with me today is Tim Pearson, Vice President of Global Product Marketing and Strategic Alliances at NAGRAVISION. NAGRAVISION is the media and entertainment technology division of the Kudelski Group. The company enables content creators, providers, and operators worldwide to launch, monetize, and scale services at speed, offering their subscribers compelling, personalized user experiences. Tim is a 30-year veteran in streaming, content production, and digital media with hands-on experience launching the world's first live 3G stream, leading IPTV deployments, and now steering Nagra's evolution from broadcast security pioneer to streaming solutions leader. Welcome, Tim. Great to have you on today's episode.
Thank you. Great to be here. Great to be here.
Awesome. Okay, well, let's jump right in. I think one of the topics that we wanted to talk about, since we are talking about videos and video streaming, is the topic of piracy. So, and talking about piracy, we want to talk about all the mitigation, all the remedies that we have. And one of the things that we want to know is that why aren't old takedown methods working anymore? And what new tactics can be deployed to tackle piracy today?
Well, that's a great question. I think if we look back at the way in which piracy was tackled some years ago, then really it was based on reactivity, and those can take days with to go through regulators and so on and so forth to action. And by then, millions had watched the pirated content, and particularly if it was live sports, that exclusivity period and the revenue opportunity was lost. And I think the one thing that's sometimes overlooked is that today's reality of piracy is that video pirates are really criminal networks, and those criminal networks are using sophisticated and advanced technology to not be detected and to be able to spin up their streams quickly and without detection. So
Mhm.
I think what is possible today, and some of the ways in which NAGRAVISION are helping our customers, is really about driving that whole streaming security piece from an intelligence level. So, and if you're driving at an intelligence level and you're looking holistically across the entire streaming ecosystem, then you're able to identify those threats before the events start. And we use a lot of AI there as well to detect, disrupt those illegal streams, both before the live broadcast and during that live broadcast. And the AI allows us to detect small pockets of piracy that could grow into something bigger, so we can take direct action before the activity starts. But we can also use other tools in our arsenal, such as our NextGuard forensic watermarking, to take and look up the watermark signature on the piece of content and trace that leak back to the start. So, and all of this really results in proactive protection instead of that reactive cleanup. And that's why a lot of our customers, particularly those offering live sports content,
Mhm.
are using our technology to really address modern day piracy in this way using the latest tools.
Mhm. So you did mention at the beginning about criminal networks, right? So it's
Yeah.
really, I guess that they have a team and it's pretty organized. So what kind of tools do these people use actually to get into the to have access to copyrighted content? Do they have like advanced technologies as well to like you said, as soon as the show is out there, it's streaming and they're getting a copy, and then they're using that valuable monetization time to basically make their own money. So what do they deploy basically?
Content gets distributed on pirate servers through one of two ways. It's either theft, where keys have been compromised and restreaming has happened, or
Hmm.
it's restreaming from other sites. Both of which are illegal, but both of which means that they can offer subscribers a much more effective price or a cheaper price to watch the content. So those sources are either through content theft or through restreaming are provided, but increasingly the tools that we're providing and are able to disrupt that content as much as take it down. So if you disrupt those illegal streams during live broadcast, you're going to have the net result of, so for example, if you decide to blur the signal during the moment a goal is scored, you're going to drive a lot of those consumers that are watching those illegal streams or back away from that service, because they're going to say, well, we tried to watch it and the critical moments didn't work, or they were blurred, or the content quality was really bad, or whatever. So you're then the aim being to then drive them back to the legitimate services.
Mm-hmm. And talking about going back to the solution that you said, right? Um, we have a few stakeholders here. So we have the content broadcasters. Then we also have the ISPs, or people who provide the network. So who deploys this solution?
So typically, our customers would be either a sports TV channel provider,
Mm-hmm.
or it could be an ISP, so an OTT distributor. It largely depends where and how that content's being distributed, and the relationship between all of those actors in the value chain. Because we also work further up the stream with the content producers. So in the case of some content, with the studios and so on and so forth, to protect at source as well. So it largely depends on the relationship of that distribution chain as to where is best to deploy the optimum streaming security technology.
Mm-hmm. And I guess, like like what you mentioned, so you have two layers of mitigation steps. So one is the intelligence level, and the other one you did mention about forensic watermarking, right? So when we look at these techniques, it does require people who are experts at deciphering, like patterns in data patterns, to see that, oh, there's something happening here. It seems like we might have issues with piracy, or someone's trying to intercept content and stuff. So that expertise, how important is it in people deploying the solution?
It's well, I mean, first of all, in terms of people deploying the solution, fundamentally what we're responding to is their business objective, and their business objective is either to preserve the content exclusivity window that they've got, or it's to protect their revenue and sustain their investment in that premium content. In terms of the skills required, we find that some of our customers have quite a well-established existing anti-piracy teams.
Mm-hmm.
So we, in that case, provide our technologies to supplement what they have, and to strengthen some of the capability. And for
Mm-hmm.
other customers where they may not have such a strong anti-piracy team, we will provide that capability using our own anti-piracy specialists and the outputs of our anti-piracy labs as a service to those customers. So it means that in order to protect those valuable investments in content, then there's multiple ways of providing them with the intelligence and the skill sets that are required to do that.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's amazing. So I guess, the more you deploy, the more data you collect at the intelligence layer, I guess, you have more insights into these activities, and that makes you even better prepared to help, your customers in mitigating or addressing these threats, right?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the big benefits that the NAGRAVISION has is it has pretty much a 30-year case file history
Mm-hmm.
of
Wow.
pirate operations and
Mm-hmm.
pirate capabilities. So we have a lot of experience to draw on, and we have a lot of expertise within our teams. So our teams both come from an engineering background, they come from a cybersecurity background, they come from a law enforcement background.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we work cross-functionally across our industry.
Mm-hmm.
with people in law enforcement, with judiciary, with the content owners, the content distributors, and so collectively as an industry, we're tackling streaming security holistically across the market.
That's really interesting, Tim. I guess it takes everyone to build the capabilities required, especially especially video content is so popular today, and people access content everywhere, on their devices and such. So we don't know where the leakages are, who's accessing this content. So I guess this solution enables broadcasters to basically protect their monetization. Well, I think one of the other things that we wanted to talk about is maybe a little bit deeper on the technologies involved. And I guess, that brings us to either discussing the topic of AI and Gen AI, right? So you did mention, it helps secure the content. But let's talk about the use of AI and Gen AI for in customizing experience for your viewers. Do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think what I would say first of all is that these days we've all got so many subscriptions in order to access our favorite content. Right, content is
Mm-hmm.
fragmented massively
Mm-hmm.
across multiple different streaming solutions, and as a result, we're all sometimes scratching our heads of like, where did I last see that, or so on and so forth. I mean, I was reading some statistics the other day, and I think now there's something like over 800 platforms in APAC. So, consumers are drowning in choice. So,
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the real benefits of using AI is that you're able to really do some capability, or bring to market some capabilities that really provide a much more personalized and a much more tailored experience by combining both AI recommendations and the editorial curation piece as well. Because you can't, at the end of the day, human beings they don't form to type. So you still have to have a degree of editorial curation as well as the AI piece. And what the AI piece allows our customers to do, and this is particularly with our digital experience platform, OpenTV Terra, is to allow their user experience to be completely dynamic. So the different strips of content, or rails as we call them, can adapt in real time, and they can also adapt to how the viewer is engaging with the content, which profile is engaging with the content. And then AI can also not only alter the or update some of those rails that the viewer is watching, but it can also propose some new collections that they might not have thought of, or they can do some thematic stuff against a particular preference that the consumer may have, or a particular date, depending on how much information that they know about that particular consumer. And of course, with all of our solutions today, they're all incredibly data rich. So really being able to understand the consumer first through profile data and so on and so forth, and then being able to use that as part of a series of AI recommendations is really allowing our customers to drive up their ARPUs, and see a much better increase from in that revenue from better and highly personalized recommendations.
Mm-hmm. So I guess you'll be dealing with lots of data in terms of the behavioral patterns of of the customers, of the end customers, and then using that data to basically tailor offers or suggestions, like what you said. So so what comes out of that is that basically these platforms will be dealing with lots of data and analytics, right? So I mean, I want to know how do you manage that data? Do you have the infrastructure to manage huge amounts of data that comes from that's being collected from these behavioral patterns and stuff?
Absolutely. So we take data from a number of different points from across the solution and across the user experience, and And so that gets pulled into either our AI models or into our analytics databases. So our OpenTV Antera solution is a SaaS-based product, so we're able to then provide that level of insight for our customers back through a series of dashboards and graphical capabilities. So we can then present back that data to them in the way in which they want to see it based on the business problem that they're trying to solve. And that's absolutely critical, because otherwise, yeah, people will be getting snowblind with the amount of data that's being generated.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But that data has to be purposed to a particular goal or to a particular angle to understand how best to be able to drive those business outcomes, but also how to then better and to further enhance not only the experience of the product, but perhaps the wider proposition that the operator is offering to their consumer as well. So it could, for example, say, well, there's a gap here. People are looking for content that we don't currently range. So therefore, do we go and license that additional content, or do we bring in another app and we offer a bundle of services that then allows consumers to access that additional content, and so on and so forth. So it generates a number of sort of questions and possible actions for our customers to make decisions on.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that sounds brilliant. So, I was just wondering, we were talking about your solution, Nagra's solution in this aspect. What's it called?
So our solution that looks after the like digital experience platform, that looks at the multi subscription bundling, AI personalized recommendations, is OpenTV Entera.
Mm-hmm, I see. So, one of the other things that we wanted to discuss today, and that is why I asked about the solution, is that, other capabilities that the solution offers. And I think one of the things that customers look for is digital rights management, DRM, right? So let's talk a little about that. What is DRM, and how will hardware level DRM change streaming for providers and viewers?
Sure. So DRM, or digital rights management, is typically a software only product.
Mm-hmm.
So examples include things like Widevine or Microsoft Play Ready, or Apple FairPlay. These are all digital rights management solutions that are there. That means that you can only access the content that's permitted onto your particular device, be it where you are geographically, or where you are, or what you've paid to access, and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
The challenge with traditional DRM is that the keys can be extracted, and devices can be compromised, which takes us right back to where we started talking about. That then starts to fuel piracy, and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Hardware level DRM puts the encryption in the actual silicon of the device, so into the actual chipset itself. So examples would include set-top boxes, or more recently, in connected TVs. So we recently announced a partnership with MediaTek, whereby the encryption is in the chipset of their connected TVs. And that basically is setting a new standard in on-chip security, because you're able then to secure streaming content in onto those connected TVs through the same level of hardware level security that would have previously been enjoyed in set-top boxes in the pay TV industry.
Mm-hmm. And when we are talking about the hardware level security, right? And you just mentioned about the partnership with MediaTek, and now you have this integrated into the chipset. So would that mean that moving forward, a lot more devices will actually be will have a DRM integrated?
So, to hardware level DRM, it requires close collaboration across the industry, from the device makers, the chip manufacturers,
Mm-hmm.
and technology vendors, such as ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
But what it does do is it makes things like credential sharing or restreaming significantly harder. And that's, all the activity is designed to protect the revenue from the content, and sustain those content investments.
Mm-hmm.
Also, where you have built-in chip security, it also provides some operational benefits in the sense that you can update those secrets, update those credentials in the field. So once the device has left the factory,
Mm-hmm.
so it gives the ability to either revoke or grant or replace the security or the encryption that's in the chip, to further strengthen against content theft and restreaming.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So that's a lot more flexibility now that we have. And also, I guess, when you see new patterns of piracy, you basically can like update these devices with better safeguards, right?
Exactly, and I think we talked about AI earlier, and I think
Mm-hmm.
the great benefit of AI in this whole ecosystem is, it's monitoring millions of data points at any one time, and that's absolutely crucial in detecting those piracy patterns, ideally before they start to scale, so action can be taken in the early days, and in an equally same level of machine learning allows detection of criminal credential sharing and so on and so forth. So whilst we've talked about AI as a benefit, so around the
Mm-hmm.
recommendations piece, to make, should we say, the legitimate experience is irresistible, it also is playing a key role through things like we just talked about with hardware level DRM to make that piracy harder.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, I find this really interesting. That's for customers, it's just basically just turning on their devices and catching up with their latest shows. But we know what happens in the in bringing that content securely and also protecting the rights of both customers and broadcasters. There's a lot of work to be done, and I think you guys are doing a great job at it.
No, absolutely. Thanks. There's a huge sort of team effort behind the scenes that is bringing us all the content that we love on a device of our choosing at a time of our choosing. There's a lot there to ensure that that the investments are sustained, but also the revenues are there that generates the next batch of content that we're all talking about,
Mhm.
down the pub or wherever that everybody's
Yes.
watching.
Yes. So, yep, a lot more appreciation after after this, I guess. So, yeah. So, Tim, I guess that brings us to the end of our session. So, thank you so much for joining us and sharing these insights, especially on the role of AI and Gen AI in video streaming and also NAGRAVISION's solutions in this space.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
And to everyone tuning in, thank you guys for listening. If you want to learn more, visit nagra.vision and follow us for more updates and insights as we continue to uncover the latest in technology and telecommunications. See you in our next session. Bye bye.